James and Jordan from Winterbourne. Welcome to Australian Musician.
Hello,
Thanks for
thanks
having
for having
us.
us.
You guys are basically childhood friends. Did you grow up listening to similar albums?
Yeah, that was probably the main thing that we bonded over initially. Although we sort of started discovering the albums that we now love together. I think at about the same time. I think he was the AC/DC guy, and I was the Green Day guy, and we kind of combined those two and helped each other fall in love with those. Like Back in Black and American Idiot were the two big albums that we fell in love with, and then from there, we saw the similarities in what we liked about that music and sort of started exploring the new stuff together. So that's when we started getting into all the stuff that we're still into now, like Simon and Garfunkel and all the rest of it. So yeah, I think we sort of met through the music that we liked, and then we helped each other learn more about it.
No. Is that an accurate account, James?
Oh no, no, I don't remember it that way at all. I was the Green Day guy.
Thanks.
No, yeah, pretty much. We our friendship at the start was very much music based. We actually only knew each other because we were trying to join the same band through a mutual friend. And I was really annoyed because Jordan was already the guitarist. This random guy I'd never met was already the guitarist, and I knew that he could only play bar chords, which was just outrageous.
Not even bar chords. I don't think I'd come that far.
Power chords,
I think I was still on power chords.
even more infuriating.
Do you still want to be friends
Now,
now?
now that I'm learning more of the facts.
You guys started out busking. What kind of musical education is busking, and would you recommend it to others?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, go for it.
I, I don't know about musical education. I think education in how to be in front of people, definitely. Um, which is all tied together, I suppose. The biggest thing for us was it forced us to get out and play in front of an audience. And once you've played to complete strangers, it kind of makes playing for an audience who's there to hear music quite a bit easier. Um, it has its own challenges, but um, it just made us play all the time. It was a back in the days when people still had cash and CDs were still a thing. So we got instant reward for our effort, and it was as direct a correlation as you could get because we figured out early on that if we woke up really early and went to this mall and bought all the necessary gear and played some songs that we learnt and played them well, then people would give us money. So that just made us keep doing it, and it was our living. So we had no choice but to practice every week and kind of build from there. And I think that's what it does for everyone. It's the same as doing a support slot or an open mic or anything like that, except you're fully in control, well, to a degree. Um, and yeah, I would still recommend it to people, even though you can't these days make as much money from it because it people see you, and it's crazy how many people walk past you, and these are physical people rather than Spotify streams, and they are so much more likely to remember you and form a relationship with you and your music, and you're just a part of their life from their day that they were shopping. So it's
Yeah, it's crazy. Even now, we haven't busked in properly in or consistently in a number of years, and people are still most of the people I reckon at our gigs, or at least the ones that come up and talk to us afterwards, are
yeah,
people who saw us busking in one of the malls that we were in, which is getting more and more crazy because
yeah,
it's been a long time since we did it, and it was 2014 was a long time ago now, and people are still buying tickets to our shows. So yeah, for us it's been crazy, but also yeah, we were in a prime time for that. I think we talk about that all the time, how it was like everything was working out for us with CDs and cash, and the amount of people that were around in Pitt Street Mall at the time, we just took advantage of that. So I don't know how it is on the streets anymore, but yeah, it's definitely a good exercise in being a band, at least getting started like that.
Yeah.
Good idea.
You've managed to play multiple times overseas and play some great festivals. Over time, how did you make that happen and build the audience overseas?
Well, it was crazy
We,
going on from the busking thing, how many people came to our shows in Germany, having seen us in Pitt Street Mall, Sydney. That was a interesting realization for us. But having said that, we also went over there and played on the street, basically, for in a few cities, in a few spots. But I think almost all of the audience that we have over there is from those days of busking, and then since then Spotify and playlists and all that have kind of taken over, but that was how we first got our audience over there, much like we did here.
kind of another good thing about the busking, having done the busking thing, is that we, like when we first went to Europe, it was kind of on the pretext that we would get a following over there by busking again, because we'd already done it and we knew that we could, basically worst case, try and do what we did here, 10 years ago over there. And so, yeah, we just went there with our gear, and at least we were playing in front of people in Germany or France instead of Australia, which was crazy enough for us. But then, yeah, selling tickets on the back of it, yeah, as James said, it was all pretty much out of Australia. Although we do have a bit of a streaming presence, don't we?
We do now, yeah. I don't think we did then. Spotify was hardly a thing in 2017 or whenever it was that we first went to Europe. So, yeah.
So now you have a new album out on November 17, called The Act of Disappearing. Can you explain the title?
Jordan.
Sort of. It's it's a lyric. It's from a song of ours called Paint, which is now called Paint or the Act of Disappearing, because that line stood out in that song as firstly a pretty nice sounding title. But I think that song as a title track really appealed to us as well, because I don't even know why, there's something about that song that seems to sum up how we were feeling when we were making this record, and a lot of the themes from that song kind of echo themselves in the rest of the songs. So it kind of, yeah, immediately made sense that was going to be an interesting title to sort of explore. I think we're still figuring out the meaning behind that, as we do with a lot of the lyrics that we write. I think it's becoming more and more clear why that stood out as an album name. It also matches very nicely with our first album, Echo of Youth. So that there's an aesthetic appeal to it, but that was after we decided that was going to be the name of the album that we realized.
This will be your second album. Were there any lessons learned or notes taken from the first album that you took into this one?
Yeah, definitely. There was plenty of time between them, as there has been between all our outputs. But yeah, with that record came the first one, Echo of Youth, came out in 2019, and we were recording that in 2017. So we had become quite different people by the time we started making this one. Having said that, it was a long process and had kind of begun already. While we were making the first album, we were already writing the songs, some of the songs from this one we're putting out now. But I guess the main things we changed, or things we learnt, what to do with the actual process of making the music and getting it to a form of it being recorded to a degree that would be passable and professional. And this time we kind of took all the things that we learned from our friends and producers that we work with, and basically literally ended up self-producing the album. So that was a big difference for us, and it meant that we could take all the demos that we do here and wherever to a point and keep them in that original keep the original essence of the demo and just commit to fully fleshing them out as they were, rather than what we've done previously, which was everybody listens to the demos and then you go to a studio for a week or 2 weeks and re-record everything. So yeah, we took a very different approach on this album, half because we wanted to and half because we were forced to with COVID and all that stuff. So that was the biggest difference, I'd say.
Yeah. For most part, it's an extremely upbeat album. What frame of mind were you in during the writing? What was going on around you?
Well, yeah, it's a lot of the songs were old, like James said, like 20, well, yeah, before the Echo of Youth came out. So it's hard to say. It's like a 6-year process for a lot of them. It was definitely a weirder process than writing for the Echo of Youth. But having said that, Echo of Youth felt like it was being written for an even longer time, because we were trying to make a debut album forever. So I feel like we were definitely in a different headspace, particularly with COVID and all the rest of it, being inside and having all these sort of questions about how to move forward. I think that's a big theme from the record, and there's a lot of confusion in the album, in the themes of the album, and but also I think we wanted to experiment a little bit more with definitely making happy songs. I think we tend to go towards a bit of a negativity in a lot of our songs, whereas in this one it was hard to find a sad one to put on there, which we put in Walks Along the Avenue, which is, in my opinion, far too sad for the record. But we also put in songs like A Very Excellent Day, which are just outright bops, and sunshine songs. So I think for this one, what I liked doing was exploring a bit of that that weird sense of it's upbeat, but it's not particularly happy. A lot of the songs that are upbeat and high tempo and all the rest of it are actually quite unnerving to actually look at what they're about and what they're trying to get across, which is cool, which is what we like to do. We like to sort of subvert that a little bit, and that was fun to explore. But it was getting into a bit of a weird headspace, and because we made the album has a bit of a setting in, we made it all in the same world. Literally, we tried to fit it all into a story that was all contained within a world. A lot of it was getting into the headspace of what that world is, and that allowed us to make all the songs fit together and also explore something outside of ourselves a little bit more.
Was the album self-produced? Did you have somebody to bounce ideas off?
Yeah, self-produced, but we worked with a guy called Jackson Barclay, who's a mix engineer, and has worked on all our stuff. We've previously had Andy Mack producing, who's a good friend of ours, and we all live near each other and remain close friends, but we just kind of had to ask him if it was okay if we took this one on ourselves, especially because we knew it was going to be a very broken up process. But all along the way, we've had Jackson and Andy and our friend Tom, who's also helped with production in the studio and around us. And we were sending the songs to them, and we were sending the songs to Jackson in Pro Tools sessions. And it was very collaborative between all those people in that team still. But yeah, we just took on the decision-making side of things for production and all the building up of the songs and production. We did all that.
Yeah. You recently finished a regional tour. Did you play any of this material on that tour?
We
did.
How many exactly?
Yeah, it's getting harder now to make set lists. We're trying to plan out our album tour for next March, and it's because we've got 2 albums and 2 EPs now to choose from. It's getting we're starting to have to kill some of our favorites, and the regional tour was just a good way of putting him on stage for the first time, because we haven't been touring that much since we started writing this stuff. Obviously, we didn't really tour the first album as much as we would have liked to, and so we still feel like there's a little bit to get out of those songs, which is a weird feeling because now we have a brand new album. So yeah, we're still trying out. It all seems to work, and it's still fun and kind of nerve-wracking playing new stuff because it's so fresh to us, which is fun.
The Farfisa organ features prominently on the album. Did you use a real analog keyboard, or was it a
No,
version?
I'm so sad you asked specifically about that one. Yeah, the dream would have been to use a real one from the 60s. We did actually end up buying one, but it's I don't know what year it's actually from. I imagine the 80s, but it looks like a toy. But it's a real Farfisa, but I think it's called a super Farfisa or something. Sounds incredible, but it looks more like a Juno-esque kind of synth. But yeah, we used a plugin basically. But we in a desperate attempt to try and get the cool factor back up, we reamped all the synth sounds through my vintage record player speakers. So we managed to get a bit of that warmth, but yeah, we definitely would have preferred to have found ourselves a genuine Farfisa, but they're bloody massive, and I couldn't find one anywhere. So maybe the next album.
Yeah. So what's the instrumentation on stage? What do you guys play?
This album is a little more acoustic driven. It's very similar to the stuff we did last time. I mean, we can't play that much stuff really. So it's electric guitars and acoustic guitars, and then we have Josh, a friend of ours, who can do a bit of everything. So he plays the synths and the cello and does a bit of singing and piano, and then drums. So I think that's it. Oh, and I've introduced a tenor recorder to the mix as well, just because I'm a bit jealous of Josh, and we have a song that allows me to play tenor recorder. So that exists now.
Are there any sentimental stories about how you acquired your guitars?
Good question. This Washburn I got in a used guitar store in Tasmania. I was just there on a holiday and found it and decided that we needed it. And I'm glad I did that because it's all I've really played. This T guitar, which we have two of these that are slightly different, came from a guitar maker in Bowral. And it's called T guitars, and they don't make guitars anymore, so that's a little bit sad. We were very happy to get those. They were our babies for the last record, and still are. I feel scared to take it anywhere because it's a limited thing
It's a
now.
relic.
Yeah. And then what else are we using?
Well,
Oh, the acoustic, yeah.
There's the acoustic from our busking days, which has re-emerged for this album. Kind of went into the darkness for a while. It's the Maton, but we drew all over it because we were busking and bored. And it's got
show them the crack in the back.
Literally in half, like it's cracked there, and there's bits missing from the front.
Yeah.
But so it's kind of lost all its low end bigness, but it slots really nicely into mixes because it's quite a contained sound and it's very sparkly. And we've got this Cort 12 string as well that Jordan took all the low octaves off. So it's now it's just like this sparkly. When you strum chords, the phrasing sound totally new, and it's in Nashville tuning. So that's on nearly every song on the album. And we found that when we combined that sparkly 12 string with the Farfisa, it sounded like this magical world. And so that kind of helped. We put that throughout the album, and those two sounds kind of tie all the songs together.
Yeah. Do you find that there's a track on the album that's closer to your heart than others?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think it depends on the mood. They're all. It's quite a strong filter process that they all go through. So they're all the ones that have made it through all that. So they all have a place somewhere at a certain time of day or a certain mood. I find a glass of lemonade to be one that I'm very, very proud of, and seems like very honest, but also makes no sense, which is something I like.
Yeah, I think Forevermore is a similar thing. It's always the last song. Last time it was Echo of Youth,
Oh
and
yeah.
this time it's Forevermore. It's something about those two that feels pretty similar. They're just like I can't really believe we put them together. They were those ones that I just love listening to, and I would believe that somebody else had made them, and I would love them, and regardless of who had written them. So
Was the track order very important to you?
yeah,
Oh yes.
very always.
Yeah.
It kind of just fell together this one though. Like I feel like
You reckon?
the from the time that we decided it was going to be an album to the time that we had a finished album wasn't that long. So we were throwing together notes with all the songs written on them for a long time and figuring out what the shape was going to take. But we do that, in our own time anyway. And
Yeah.
that's a hobby of ours, regardless of whether we've got an album coming out or not. So this one I remember it being difficult to figure out. I knew Dandelions was going to be first since I first heard it, and then the rest of it was like that it could all go anywhere, and there were a few different versions, but I remember it just clicking into place at one point and us going, okay, well that's it. There's no need to change that again.
Yeah, with the first album, I feel like that happened almost, it was very early. I remember sending you a note being like, this is it, I've completed this.
Yeah, it was before we went to the studio. I think we knew what order that'd be in.
Well, I think it was while we were there. I think it was in Byron. That's what I remember.
Yeah,
because we got all the rough versions, and it was like, okay, this is the order.
Yeah,
but this time, because of the way the album all came together, we didn't even know what songs were on it until a couple of weeks before we had to send it to mastering. There was one emergency edition, which is a song called Walks Along the Avenue, the one that Jordan believes is too sad for the record. And because I thought there wasn't enough sadness. So yeah, that we had to readjust it for that. But yeah, we're very particular about these things, and we really had to just trust that at some point the correct order would present itself, and eventually it did.
Yeah. So the album's out on November 17. What's on for the rest of the year?
You mean after that or until then?
After
days.
Who knows? Showing it to everybody. I mean, we've got a tour to prepare for in March and to sell tickets for. It's a weird one releasing an album because it feels like that's it then. It's out and everyone can have it as much as they're going to have it. And there's no more teasing to be done and no more build up. So hopefully we can capitalize on the enormous amount of streams and just the sort of the crazy explosion of attention we're going to get once the album comes out, and make some content and do a good tour. But it's so hard to say what to do after we put an album out. It's impossible.
Try and sell it, basically.
Try and sell it.
So what's the ultimate goal for the band?
Glasgow main stage, Sunset.
Yeah, pretty much. And assuming that when we play the Sunset set at Glastonbury, there will be several other things that have come to fruition around that. It won't be just us now getting the spot at Glastonbury. Assume we will have had to have sold many records and be touring the world to
true. I don't want
sized venues.
I don't want Glasgow this July or whenever it is.
No, that'd be weird.
Having not succeeded in earning Glasgow.
If someone just went, George Ezra's pulled out, do you guys want to do Glastonbury? We'd obviously say yes, but we wouldn't. It wouldn't be dream achieved. We'd still have to. We'd have to be offered it of our own right, and yeah. We should
dream
really
is
write this down.
To earn Glastonbury is the dream.
Yeah.
It's deep. I like that.
Okay, The Act of Disappearing is out November 17. It's a great album. You guys should be very proud of it. And thanks for catching up with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
listening to the
Appreciate it.
album.
Yeah.